thing we couldn't get them to do was to walk.
Working with puppets, of course, is very difficult.
Very, very difficult.
Very, very frustrating.
Very frustrating.
Hang on, string's broken.
Her lips jammed.
Her arms locked again,
Yeah,
sorry. 1 second, standing her up. And, sorry, her boobs have turned.
It's enough to make you lose your dinner.
Oh, sorry, he's supposed to talk during that.
They are the most difficult things to work with. And it's more a science than art, the construction of these, so that they move well.
At the end of 6-foot strings, you are to a certain extent quite sort of remote from it.
You can see the length of these strings was a real problem, that when I turn this controller here, there's a delay before the head moves, like that. It takes time. So when you turn the thing, it took a while for the puppet to react. There's a delay, and then when it moves, it carries on swinging. So you then had to try and correct, and way out of practice.
With the marionettes, they swung about quite a lot. You sort of turn their heads.
My arm's aching already. The knees used to bend as your arms got tighter and tighter and tighter. They ended up
Sinking to the floor.
sinking to the floor.
Woo! You could give the impression where you'd have somebody cross an alleyway, but you'd put something in between them and their lower half, and so what you saw was the character from there up,
Waist up.
and then you'd shoot the shot, and it looked as if they'd actually run somewhere. Of course, they hadn't run anywhere; they'd just been dragged across.
I know that you were all constantly on a quest to sort of make the puppets more real. So what did you do?
I went along, and I chose all the men, and I put little willies on them, you know. And when the girls got in the morning, oh, there was the most terrible uproar about these. And I said, well, you know, you've got to bring them to life somehow, haven't you?
They'd spray the strings to make sure that you couldn't see them, although you could, of course. Don't say that to my mother, she doesn't like that.
Because they were very specialised, very, very thin wire. All right, you can see them now and again, but on the whole, they were incredibly thin wire, but they were always breaking.
The time one spent getting everybody and everything ready for the moment when the camera was going to be switched on to make a take. You've got to check if this one is right, if the puppeteers, sometimes it would be 3 or 4 puppeteers, all standing there holding this weight, you know, waiting for the moment when you were going to turn over. There are strings that have to be dusted and got rid of because they would glisten in front of the camera. There might be somebody who's got to do something at a particular moment, and everybody's got to be ready. And so everybody, after all this time that we've been waiting, rehearsing, lighting, getting the right lens, doing all these things, everything's ready, and so, you know, you say, okay, turn over, action,